What is up, everyone? Alrighty, so today's video, be warned, if you hear a lot of fans and noise in the background, that's because my air is out of my house, so we have like a ton of fans going on, and it is currently like 85, 86 degrees in my house, so lovely. But I had a question the other day in my Warhammer 40K group of what if the Primarchs had Pokemon teams? What would they be and what would their types be? So I made this a while ago on my phone at work where I was just like, you know what? Like, if Pokemon and Warhammer did a collab, what would the teams of, well, not really collab, but what would the teams be of the Primarchs? And so pretty much I decided that I was going to give them like quote unquote gym teams. So single type, like fighting type, steel type, electric type, you know, stuff like that. I will say immediately, I am not doing the Emperor of Mankind because that would be a little too long of a video. This video is already going to be long enough. And also the steel type will only be for a couple Primarchs because the steel and the fighting type could take this whole video. I mean, that is literally what Warhammer 40K is there is never-ending war. So, I mean, you use steel, you use fighting, you use fire. I mean, you use a lot of the basics, but you know, certain people got certain types for a reason, and I'll try to give a little reason why. So, and I will say, I'm sorry, just do with the typing teams. If you guys feel that you guys want me to do the random personal teams, I will. Just let me know down in the comments, and let's begin with the first Primarch, and of course the best, the Lion. The Lion's ace would be Surfetched, and since Surfetch is a pure fighting type, that is what I chose for the Lion. And of course, with, you know, Surfetch being his ace, it just works so much. It looks like the knightly Dark Angels aesthetic. I love it to pieces. The rest of his team kind of has some semblance to knighthood and Caliban, the Arthurian mythos that the Lion is from. So we have Breloom, Gallade, Lucario, Phalanx, and Kama'o. I chose Kama'o because it's a dragon, Arthur. I mean, it just works perfectly. Phalanx because it is literally like a knight army aesthetic, so it works pretty well. Lucario because he's like one of the best fighting types. Gallade, same thing. And then Breloom for like the nature of Caliban, like all the fauna on it, kind of works perfectly. The second Primarch chose Lopunny and then ran off, so we don't need to discuss him. Fulgrim. Fulgrim's team is a little interesting. I would believe he would choose a fire, I almost said fire, a fairy / poison type theme. And his ace would easily be Salazzle. Now, I could have said Arbok, but I think Salazzle is a better choice for him. And there's a reason why, and I'll kind of discuss a little bit. The rest of his team would be Aromatisse, Grimmsnarl, Galarian Slowbro, Roserade, and Seviper. And the reason for Seviper is actually to match with another of his brothers here down the line, and we'll kind of talk about that when we get to it. But let's get into the next Primarch, because like I said, this video is going to be long enough, so let's try to not make it as long as, you know, 30 minutes. So now for the Olympian and Siege Master, Perturabo. And he of course would be a steel type, and his ace would 100% be an Excadrill. Even Mega Excadrill. And that is something too that I didn't even think about when I was making these teams, is that like Megas and Gigantamaxes, they can still work. I didn't even think to put them in here, but I'm like, dude, every single member of every team has somebody who could be a Mega or a Gigantamax, which is really cool, especially now with Pokemon ZA that came out and a whole bunch of new Megas were introduced. So, like I said, Perturabo would have Excadrill as his ace for two reasons. One, it's the perfect choice for digging up ores for sieges, and then it's also good for breaking down defenses. He can just drill right through the defenses. Perfect for a Siege Master. The rest of his team would kind of be useful, like they have to be useful. So number one would be Caparajah. Caparajah can haul like mighty things, plus he's with his nose he can dig. Orthworm, same thing as Excadrill, they can dig through defenses, plus they have, I think it's the Earth Eater ability or the Steel Eater ability, where literally, or no, it is the Earth Eater ability, where literally if he got hit by Earth, he just heals himself from it. Bastiodon, because he is a giant shield, or Chaludon for a bridge conveying moving troops, and then Magnezone, and I chose Magnezone mainly because he didn't have a flying, like somebody who can kind of fly a little bit up in the air. And plus with the electric typing, I think Magnetism would actually work really, really powerful as a battery for this siege. Now, next up is the Khan, and I chose him. He was kind of confusing. The Khan was a little interesting to do because I really thought electric type would work well for him, but I chose normal type for one reason, well, kind of two reasons, and I would love to hear what you all think about this choice. I think his ace would be Zangoose. And I know Zangoose isn't a powerful Pokemon, but there's kind of a reason before him, and I'll say it afterwards after we talk about his team. The rest of his team would be Staraptor, Swellow, Heliolisk, Bouffalant, and finally Beware. Now, the reason I chose Zangoose in particular is when he made a comment about how Fulgrim treats his Marines. If you've never, heard about that, look up on Major Kill, or I think Wolf Lord Rowe or the Remembrancer. They have all talked about it, and it is actually really, really funny. Plus, with the streak of red across his body, it resembles the White Scars logo anyways. So I think Zangoose would be like a perfect mascot for the White Scars. I mean, Bouffalant would kind of be cool because the steppe plains of the Mongols is kind of what the White Scars are after. Beware because, I mean, it's all cute and cuddly until he gets very angry, and then it's like, oh, we're screwed. Heliolisk I just threw on there because I was like, I don't know much about the Khan, and he's kind of a random, but I've seen a lot of people like Heliolisk, a lot of people not like Heliolisk, so I thought that was really cool. Then I chose Staraptor and Swellow because I was like, the Khan loves birds. I mean, in his picture, there is a bird. I mean, the Mongols loved birds. Swellow and Staraptor, I get that they're like the starter birds that you get in the Pokemon games. I think they would work perfect for him. So next up is the Wolf Lord, Lehman Russ. Now his typing, of course, is the ice type, and I'm gonna say it was kind of difficult to choose a team for him that kind of worked with Fenris, the home planet that he's from. But I will say that Baxcalibur is his ace. If there was an ice dog or an ice wolf Pokemon, I easily would have chose that as his ace, no matter how good or bad, or even if it was a starter. But there isn't, so I had to choose the strongest ice type I could think of. Now, the rest of his team, I mean, especially with Mega Baxcalibur, it's pretty cool. But the rest of his team is Weavile, Mamoswine, Glaceon, Beartic, and Abomasnow. All of them are really good choices, especially Mamoswine and Beartic and Weavile. Kind of get some similar, like they might be able to thrive on Fenris. Abomasnow is just like a giant tree, so that'd be easy for him. The only one I have a problem with is Glaceon, but I was like, he'd probably have an evolution. It probably would be him. So the 8th Primarch on our list is actually Rogel Dorn, and for him, of course, I chose the Steel type, just like Perturabo, because they have that feud against each other. I think it works. And now his ace is Aegislash, which has that whole knight aesthetic, kind of like the lion, but it just works for him. So the rest of his team is Corviknight, of course, the knight aesthetic, Angron for his hidden anger, Skarmory, mainly because Mega Skarmory turns gold, and I thought that would be kind of cool with the yellow banana theme of the Imperial Fists. And then also Escavalier, same as Corviknight and Aegislash, as being a knight aesthetic, and Ferrothorn for actually being very bulky and very useful in a lot of competitive teams. So it kind of worked out for him to have the Steel type. I think it kind of works better than actually Perturabo's team. Now, here's an interesting pick, and that for the most part is Conrad Kurz. For him, I chose the basic of flying type instead of dark type. And when I mention his team, you might understand where I'm coming from. So his ace is Crobat, which is a poison flying type. The rest of his team is Honchkrow and Staraptor. There will be a bunch of repetitive Pokemon in the teams, just to give you a heads up. Next up is Kilowattrel, Noivern, and Mandibuzz. Noivern and Mandibuzz makes sense. They're more birds of prey. Kilowattrel is the only interesting one, but I think it kind of works because it's like a dark electric, Conrad he loved his electric, oh crap, it's the power claws. I know him and Corvus Corax always had a feud against it, so that's why I chose Kilowattrel, as I was thinking about that. Now, the 9th Primarch is our glorious hawk boy, Sanguinius. And for him, I chose the Psychic type. He has a small Foresight ability, so I leaned into it and I chose to give him the Psychic type. And his ace is easily Togekiss. Togekiss is kind of like an angelic fairy. Sanguinius was literally known as the angel, so it just works in perfect tandem. Now, for the rest of his team, I went with pure Psychic, so I went with Alakazam, Espeon, Starmie, Gardevoir, and then I chose an interesting one. I chose Armarouge, mainly for the whole yellow and gold, red and gold theme that most of the Blood Angels have, or at least the ones that I've seen. So I think it kind of works for Armarouge to be on that team as well. But his team is uber powerful, and I really think it works for him. And the other reason I chose Togekiss is, you know, being an angelic fairy and Sanguinius being the fallen angel, is because they can also both fly. So I guarantee Sanguinius would be like, I want a Pokemon that can fly with me so I don't feel kind of lonely. You know, just that little change up kind of would give it a little bit more personality. Now for the 10th Primarch, that is Ferrus Manus. And I chose an interesting team for him, but I chose Electric. One, because Steel would work so well, but I didn't want to bog this whole video down with, like I said, a single typing. But also his ace is actually not a Steel type, even though his name is Iron Hands. So Iron Hands is actually a fighting electric type, and I could have went with a fighting type, but I was like, you know what? We already had a bunch of fighting Pokemon. Let's throw a whole team of electric Pokemon in there and actually have some kind of fun with it. So the rest of the team is Electivire. I get it. I mean, it's a giant fighting guy, but it still kind of works for him if you think about it. Luxray, because everybody loves Luxray, and Luxray is not a dark type. He's electric. He's just pure electric, so it kind of works. Magnezone to kind of be similar with Perturabo, Palma, and Rotom. And the Rotom can actually change his form into whatever he's going to go against. So like with Rogodorn or Perturabo, who have the pure Steel type, almost pure Steel type, he can choose Rotom Heat and like melt those two. So it kind of showed, like, I almost said Iron Hands. Ferrus Manus can pretty much just change his whole team just with Rotom, like as a secret weapon to fight any of his brothers. And I think that really, really works. It does suck that we see him in the Horus Heresy that he's the first one to die, but both sides were like, man, if Ferrus would have joined us, we would have won this. This would have been so easy because he was the most powerful Primarch. Like, I mean powerful when I'm talking about like fighting, like strength. The dude had, when he said you're going to get these hands, you're going to get these hands. He had it. Now, the 11th Primarch, he disappeared with the 2nd Primarch fighting over who was better, Lopunny or Vaporeon, so we have no idea what their teams would be. The 12th Primarch, and that being Angron, and I really love his team. And the Ghost type really fits well for him, if I have to say so myself. And I mean, you can choose Fire or Pure, like the fighting type, as better, but I think Ghost works as best because one of his nicknames is the Ghost of Nuceria, and when he met his father, he was like, you do not get anything but a ghost, like the shell of a ghost. And the Emperor was like, a ghost will be fine. It just, and because of his whole nickname with Ghost of Nuceria and Ghost type, his ace 1,000,000% is going to be Annihilape. In the dex, it is stated to evolve a Primeape into Annihilape, he literally needs to get so angry he dies. You have to use the move Rage Fist 20 times without killing your Primeape. And you can't take him back to the Poke Center to get healed up. And it's just wild. The rest of his team would easily be a Ceruledge, a Gengar, a Basculegion for his Fallen Legion, a Dragapult, and a Trevenant. I threw Trevenant on there because that's one of my favorite Pokemon, and I was like, you know what? Angron can get a Trevenant because it's an angry tree. It just works. Now, the most even and methodical member of the Primarchs, and that's being Rabute Guilliman. I'm just gonna say right now, his ace is a starter Pokemon. Normally, I agree. I don't think anybody should get a starter Pokemon on their team. It doesn't make it feel fair. But I chose Empoleon because he's a Water Steel type. He's blue, just like the Blueberry Legion. And he has a battlefield general appearance. It just fits so well for him. And the rest of his team is kind of easy to digest and understand. I chose Clawitzer for the artillery. I chose like an artillery piece. I chose Toxapex for a resemblance to bunkers and defenses. I chose Kingdra for tactical flexibility. I chose Poliwrath for frontline discipline, and Milotic for the prosperity that has flourished under the rule of I chose Melodic for the prosperity that has flourished of Ultramar under the leadership of Rabute Gilliman. I really think that could all work. I mean, you could also say Gyarados would work too instead of Melodic, but I mean, Gyarados is kind of like that rage, and I think the only reason you'd put a Gyarados on it is, like, in one scene in particular, it was when the Word Bears and the World Eaters attacked Ultramar, and Rabute Gilliman got so mad, like, he got sent out to the vacuum of space without a helmet on, and the word bearer is like, oh cool, we just killed a Primarch. And then like they hear knocking on a door, they open it up, and they just see a really angry Rabute Gilliman, and he just massacres them. Like, that's the only thing I can think of to fit Gyarados with him. So it would be really cool, but it would also be kind of interesting too. And now the stinky Mothman of the Primarchs of the teams, and that is Mortarion, and he is 100% a poison type. And his ace is the easiest member, Wheezing. I literally actually have my first shiny that I remember getting in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Like, I actually checked all my old games and I do not have it. I've never got a shiny before. So I guess my first shiny in a Pokemon game is Muck. And I turned him in, or it was Grimer and then it was Muck. I literally named him Mortarion because he had the stench ability, plus he had a special attacking boosting nature. So I was like, oh my gosh, this dude is actually perfect. And that is actually the same on his team, because you know you can't get Wheezing in Scarlet and Violet in the base game. So his team is Wheezing as his ace, Muck, Crobat, Victory Bell, Amoonguss, and Galarian Slowking. You could easily put Garbodor or Nidoking on here, but I think the Psychic boost of Slowking show his Psychic Warp shenanigans. Victory Bell and Amoonguss, I mean, they are the same flip of the same coin when it comes to the ramifications of the corruption of Nurgle on a planet. And then Crobat, because, I mean, we don't have a moth. Well, we have Moth M, but we don't have a poison type moth Pokemon. Other than, oh no, we have Venomoth. I don't know why I didn't put Venomoth instead of Crobat. That actually would have been better. So, sorry, I actually put Venomoth instead of Crobat. But speaking of Warp Field shenanigans, we're going to come to the next Primarch, and that being the Magnus the Red, the Primarch of the Thousand Suns. And his team is beefy. He of course would be a Psychic type user, and his ace would easily be Alakazam. The rest of his team is Metagross, Malamar, Rabsca, Reuniclus, and finally Sigilyph. All of them kind of give hints all about Magnus the Red, so I think it works really well. I mean, the only one that's kind of interesting that's maybe shouldn't be on there is Metagross, but I think, you know, having that fake confidence really works for him. Now, I am going to go into a bit more detail when we talk about the War Masters team, and it is a random team. He is the only one that I'm giving this because I literally cannot put him in a single type. Starting with his ace. His ace is more Peko, and I know that's kind of a weak ace, but it really works when it shows the transition from being good to evil, like from a loyalist to a traitor. The rest of his team actually kind of follows with his whole corruption. So Bruxish is who I chose for Slanesh corruption, Gothitelle for Zinch corruption, Aegislash for Corn corruption, and Skunk Tank for Nurgle corruption. So that's 5 members of his team right there. And then for the final member, which you could argue for being his ace, but you could also say it is a symbol of the past that Horus gave up on, and that's Lycanroc Dusk form. Like with the whole Sons of Horus, the Luna Wolves, Lycanroc Dusk form is literally probably the best. Now for the Corruptor, Lorgar. Lorgar was a little interesting for me to pick, and I almost went Dark type, but then I thought about how Lorgar is super religious fanaticism, and I chose the Ghost type, mainly for a couple reasons, so I'll explain. His ace is Chandelure. When you think about it, a lot of religions use candles in worship, so it would be perfect to always have one near. The rest of his team is Spiritomb and Palossand for bound demons and haunted structures. Gengar and Dusknoir are literally demonic forces, and Shedinja is something unnatural, not of this plane. So it all kind of works. Plus, I believe there is a dex entry where it says if you look at the hole in the back of Shedinja, then your soul will be sucked away. So there's that too. Now, for one of my favorites, and that being the big teddy bear Vulcan, I chose him as a fire type, mainly because it just really works with Volcarona as his ace, and seeing as Volcarona is his ace, it really connected with the whole blacksmithing vibe that he had. So the next three would help more in the forges while Vulcan worked, and that being Torkoal, Colossal, and Turtonator. His last two is Charizard and Magmortar. Charizard for the Salamander Dragon aspect, and Magmortar for the Prometheum, which is a 40K super equivalent version of Napalm. Now for the most stealthiest Primarch, and that is Corvus Corax and his team of stealth sort of users, but it's also a dark type. And I know the dark type is typically the evil type, but it's also, to me, it's kind of like, well, it could be the shadows. Like, you know, you blend in really well with shadows. Shadows are dark. So I chose Bombardier for bombing runs, obviously. Honchkrow, because I literally just think Honchkrow works for him and for Conrad. Zoroark for kind of stealth and imposter. Well, we'll get into that later. Greninja. Greninja is literally a ninja. Evil for sneaky, like doing sneaky tactics, like, you know, setting up bombs and stuff. And Shiftery. Shiftery is mainly because it's really, really cool. It's a really stealth-oriented person, so I think that's really, really nice. For the last Primarchs, Alfarius and Omegon. Since their whole thing is espionage and impersonation, I thought, why not choose members who excel in that? And I kind of tried to. Their ace would be Ditto, and then the next two members would literally be a Zoroark and a Hisuian Zoroark. These guys are the only ones that know the Imposter, the Transform, or I think, I forget what the other ability is. I think there was another one, but it's literally just those three. I mean, you could put Zorua or you could put Mew, but Zorua is too weak. Mew is a legendary, and I definitely didn't want to do that. The other three members are more mission-oriented when it comes to the Alpha Legion, and so I chose Octillery for the assassination missions, Malamar for the manipulation missions, and finally Thievel for espionage and theft missions. So I think it kind of works out. So that's my video covering the Pokemon teams of the Primarchs. If you want me to make a video covering the personal random, no single type team for the Primarchs, like I said earlier at the beginning of this video, let me know and I'll make a video over it. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.